Welcome to the SCM podcast. I am Don Wayne. That is Motorhead. No, that's Motorhead. That is Johnny Bottles. Welcome to the show. How you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
What do you got for us, Big Don?
Doing well.
So, a lot going on this week. You guys having a good Father's Day? Shout out to all the fathers this Thursday. We got a nice Father's Day weekend. Weather's looking nice here in Central Virginia. Looking forward to some pool time, some golf, a couple of cold ones, and hopefully some time with the family. Ladies, all the moms out there, let me give you some advice. We don't want to grill on Father's Day. That's a myth. We don't want to be out in that heat. We want to eat inside with the rest of you. We don't want to be fighting the mosquitoes. Let's keep it real. We don't ask you to cook on Mother's Day. Don't ask us to grill on Father's Day.
Yep. Very good. Amen to that one.
You got that right.
Bottles, I'm glad that you got your equipment up and running, man. I know that was a frustrating situation for you last weekend.
New camera software, and it just crashed my video card. The internet connection went down. Everything went down. The whole computer went out right at the beginning of that podcast last week. And while I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Motor, I'm looking at you, Don, I'm looking at Playboy Bobby Starr, I see little white circles every so often. And then you would disappear. Then you would come back up one at a time. I would lose you all one at a time. Then you'd pop back up. And it was a... What's the word I'm looking for? Shit show?
That's a good word.
Can I say that? Shit show.
By the way, nice Macho Man shirt there.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. WWEshop.com.
Little bit of promo action there. I see you got the Ramones on over there.
Yes, sir. Gabba Gabba. Hey, buddy. Love them Ramones.
Is that the
president's shout-out? Oh, yeah, there it is. There we go.
Rocking my balls tonight. Hopefully this team is worth a damn.
Mike Digital. He's the one that made the song for the intro track and the video. Big applause to Mike, one of our boys in the group, the Wireman, and did a great job. Thought he nailed it. And thank you, Mike. You're going to be doing more stuff, buddy.
Thank you very much, Mike. You've worked hard this week, man. We appreciate everything you did.
Look him up on Twitter. It's Mike Dijital, I believe it is.
Correct.
At Mike Digital, spelled that way, Dijital. He's got his own YouTube channel, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Where he posts all his works. And it's really good stuff. Very talented guy. Don't know Mike Digital. Never heard his voice. Never saw his face. I'd rather him to be a man of mystery to me. But he puts out some great stuff.
He is a man of many talents. I know that much.
Yes, he is. That's why he's called the Wire Man.
He is the Wire Man. So figure we might start off this week on a little bit of Raw. Nothing going on crazy.
It was very uneventful.
Wasn't exciting. I mean, it sort of carried over from SmackDown, I thought, last week. SmackDown last week wasn't really great. It was a wrestling show, a modern wrestling show. You know what I mean? Not a whole lot going on. There's not a whole lot of action, but there were a few areas that I really wanted to know about. Want to get you guys' opinions on. If you've noticed, they're going through a huge change, man. Huge change right now on the belts. You guys notice this?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we've got the new you've got the new heavyweight championship and the new universal championship. I guess that means tomorrow night or whenever we see Roman Reigns again, he's going to have one belt. Am I assuming correctly here, or what am I to assume from that?
I believe you are. Yes.
Yes, he's only going to have one belt from now on.
That's a damn shame. I kind of like the two belts. It made it different when you were the Universal Unified Champion. I thought it gave it a little bit of a different look. It was something that they had never done before. I really liked that type of two-belt guy coming out there. It was a new modern look. That's one of the things I did like about the new modern era. You know, I do think they got too many titles, but I like the look of coming out with two belts. You knew right away that was the badass of the show. Get out of his way or get creamsicled. I just like the way it looked.
Well, you know, Don, you said they got too many titles as it is right now. But Motor, what do you think about the rumor going around they're going to have a ladies intercontinental championship?
Well,
for the women.
You know, like I said, I'm not against ladies wrestling. There's some really super talented women out there right now. I mean, really incredible talent. I do think it's oversaturated in some parts, but to have an intercontinental ladies champion, I mean, where's your money at? Where's the the viewership at. There's a ton of fans out there that watch the women's wrestling, and just
Right.
we've seen them on Twitter and some of the other social media pages where they devote their whole page to female wrestling. So, kudos to them. I personally think it's too much, but like Rhea Ripley, come on, guys. That chick's something else, dude. She belongs there. She's amazing. She's amazing.
And then the other champ, the SmackDown champ, Asuka.
I like her. I like her.
That's another one, man. She's 41, 42, because she's wrestled for years and years in Japan, and she came over here to make some big money, and she's making it now because she's still there. But she was wrestling men over in Japan. Men. That's how tough she is. Just two tough women as WWE champs right now, ladies champs. Very interesting to see. And they're going to take the ladies tag team champs from NXT, those belts, and merge them with the WWE women's tag belts.
So that's what they're going to do. I saw they were going to have that mixed tag match with the champions versus champions. I wasn't sure what that was about. So I think, I don't know if that's a move in the right direction, but I'm not really sure that the NXT level needs a women's tag team division championship area, because there's just, I hate to say it, that's why the Rhea Ripleys and the Ronda Rouseys of the world stand out. That's why they stand out. They can go. They look different. They act different. They throw you around the ring. And back to the belt, the reason I bring it up is, did Rhea Ripley get a carbon copy of the men's championship belt? Did I see that right, or was it the same size?
Like
was it smaller?
It looks exactly like the same belt, same thing.
Now, the Reigns Raw belt that he had and the SmackDown belt that Reigns had, those two belts were carbon copies of the women's belts. But because you didn't see it on Raw, Reigns has it over on SmackDown, and that's what you're dealing with. You didn't see the comparison, but his belts look exactly like the Raw's Ladies Championship belt and the SmackDown's Ladies Championship belt in the past. Now they have the new belts now. So,
what did you think of Rhea Ripley's new belt? She's what now? She's the women's heavyweight champion, or how's that work? Like they gave it a new name. She's no longer the Raw champion, and the other belt's no longer the SmackDown.
If you read the fine print at the bottom of the belt, WWE heavyweight champions on Ripley's belt, I believe. Asuka's belt says, and I saw it right when it was on camera, undisputed.
Okay.
Undisputed on her belt.
So I guess the undisputed is over the heavyweight championship. Am I to read that correctly?
I would assume so, but who knows?
Well, that's what happens when you get so many title belts and you don't really delineate which one's the important one. You start trying to figure out which one. Because to me, Rhea Ripley's the star of the women's division. She's it.
Absolutely.
She's the thing going today. She's a ticket draw. Everything she does, I believe in. Her heel facade makes me love her even more. I know she's supposed to be a heel. I love her swarmy ass. I love that, ooh, you want to touch me kind of look when she gives the guys. She's such a great heel. Everything she does is gold right now.
When Judgment Day came out a few weeks ago and confronted the Bloodline, when the Bloodline was all hunky-dory and they were all together, she stood up in front of Solo Sikoa, nose to nose. And he's standing there like this, his arms crossed as always. And she was nose to nose Solo Sikoa, like, go ahead, what are you going to do? And then Balor reached over and pulled her down to the end of the line. And then Solo moved, and then she moved back into the line right across from Solo again, like showing that she didn't back down. Badass. Just a badass.
Yeah, agree. 100%, man. She is definitely a bright spot for women's professional wrestling, the brightest spot, in my opinion, across the board. And it's nothing but the top for her now. I can't.
Absolutely.
They have bungled a lot of things with writing and the creative and stuff with a lot of other people. I don't see them doing that with Rhea Ripley. I think they know what they have. I think they know where she's headed. And sky's the limit now for her. And kudos. Good job. Right on. Because I'm a fan, and I don't see, for me, well, you guys know how old I am. So I grew up with like Fabulous Moolah, Leilani Kai, those types, back in the day. And then once TNA came out, I loved Awesome Kong. I love that woman to death, man. I wish we could get her on our show because she was she'd get in there and just knock the living crap out of girls, and people were afraid of Gail Kim, another one. But I think nowadays, for me anyways,
Medusa.
Oh, another one. And I got to see her drive monster truck too. She's a badass woman. But it's a little oversaturated in some parts, but I understand why they're doing it and why the direction and changing the belts, because it's a huge audience for them. Huge audience. They can pack arenas. Look at the cards nowadays when WWF travels around. Look how many women's matches are on there compared to, let's say, 30 years ago, 25 years ago. So it's where it's at, and you can't blame them for trying to push it. Can't blame them.
No. So in the segment, if you notice, she got the new belt, and I thought that was really cool. I was digging the whole thing. And then Cody Rhodes comes out. You guys see that?
Yes.
So,
yes, sir.
I keep hearing Cody Rhodes is dying off, but every time he comes out, man, that crowd goes nuts. I keep hearing all the people, he's not over anymore. He's not over anymore. Are they watching and listening to the same show I am? Are they watching the crowd? What the hell am I missing? Because when that dude comes out, that crowd erupts. Kids go crazy. Grown men can't wait to see this guy.
Absolutely.
It's the AEW stands. The kids that worship AEW always throwing shade on Cody because he left and went to the WWE. He's making more money than he made at AEW. Working for the WWE now, merchandising those shirts. It's a lot of shirts he's moved, a lot of gimmicks, a lot of belts. Those the belts that he wears and hands out to the kid at ringside. They sell those, but he gives them a legit leather belt. They sell plastic versions of that. It's he's making all kinds of coin. Roman Reigns is the highest paid guy there, and I heard that 25% of his check is from Bloodline merchandise.
Oh, wow.
From the T-shirts and all that? That, you remember the Sopranos type Bloodline T-shirt, the Sopranos logo?
Yes, yeah.
It's reconfigured for that. I'm a big Sopranos fan. I noticed it right away. That was one of the top-selling T-shirts that they had.
Imagine
so those guys can make a lot of coin if they have the right type of merchandise, just like Bray Wyatt.
Oh,
I mean, they wanted him back to be the Fiend. He didn't want to do the Fiend anymore. But they sold a ton of those Fiend masks. It was outrageous. He made like millions every year just from.
I cannot go on a Bray Wyatt rant right now. I'm trying to stay focused. Don't make me go down this path of hate.
I don't want to upset you with your new light, Don. I don't want to upset you.
So Cody comes out, and out comes the Miz in the middle of the segment, and jacks him from behind. Right?
Yes.
Jacks him from behind. Cody turns around, starts taking care of business, and in comes the biggest heel in wrestling right now, Dominic Mysterio, hits him from behind and bails out of the ring. And the only thing I think was that is a classic shit heel move. I loved everything about it. The dude is just everything he's doing with Rhea right now is gold. They're getting the fans to hate him. Everything about it is great. That was about the only thing I saw in Raw that caught my attention. What about you? Go to you, Bottles. What do you think?
I think he is the number one heel. Is Reigns a heel?
I don't think so.
I don't think Reigns is a heel at all. I don't think he is.
He's one of those tweeners.
Yep.
When he would beat up Sami Zayn, he was a heel.
Then he was.
But when he's not beating up Sami Zayn, he's a tweener. So would you say that Dom and Lesnar are the two biggest heels they have right now? Because Brock's getting booed out of the arena, beating up Cody Rhodes. But Brock's not there all the time. So I would, Don, that's a good argument. I would have to say Dominic Mysterio. He doesn't get go away heat where they're booing him. Get off the stage. Get off my TV.
Right.
They're booing him because they legit hate him for the way he treated his family, his father, his mother, etc. Who had heat like that in the old days?
I'm thinking right now on who had that.
Cornette?
Cornette did. My God.
Cornette could get
guys on a microphone.
He'd get heat.
When the guys on a microphone,
that guy gets so much heat.
Yeah.
I got one for you, Motorhead. Ted DiBiase when he turned on Junkyard Dog.
Oh, absolutely. Peep. Hey, remember, I know you guys have heard the stories and read the clips and saw everything too. people were going. They wanted to kill DiBiase after that. And the other angle with the when he got blinded and stuff, you know, and that DiBiase took off. Holy mother of God, that was mad heat, or the Iron Sheik. You know, when those guys came out of the studio, where was he at that time? I think it was with Mid-South at the time, early on, and those guys saw a clip of him on the studio wanting to, you know, waving his flag, and they said, "We're going to go down there. They called the TV station. We're going to kill him. We're going to kill the Iron Sheik," and they were dead serious about it. You know, going back to about Mysterio, I love it. I love, just like you said, I love exactly what he's doing right now. Exactly what he's doing, because it's it's putting asses in the seats. B, it's making people and fans that used to like him hate him even more. And you guys know as well as I do, look how many heel turns to babyface, baby to heel we saw growing up back in the day with guys like Piper, Hogan, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. You know, we saw so many of that stuff, so much of that stuff happen, and there's not enough of it anymore in wrestling, and not enough of those turns like that, man, in my opinion.
I'd agree. And I think, you know, Dom is probably the closest thing we've gotten to that time period. But, you know, it's a show now. So, you know, you're never going to see what you saw back then. When DiBiase turned on Junkyard Dog, I've read the stories, I've heard the stories. They had to get him out of the building in the trunk of a car because people were waiting to ambush him. I don't think
one time he got
Mysterio
away in an ambulance. They put him in the ambulance and they had to take him out.
Yeah, I don't think Dominic's having to sneak out of the back of the trunk. But what he's doing right now, I'm enjoying for what it is. I can lose myself for about 20 minutes when he's on TV with Rhea Ripley. And that was about what I saw on Raw this week. Anybody else?
I'm with you right there, Don.
And then there was something I saw this week that I don't know how much time we want to spend on this because, my God, the Graham connection on the Dark Side of the Ring.
That was a rough show to watch. I'm just going to say that. Bottles, did you check that out, buddy?
Not yet. I recorded it. I haven't watched it yet.
Man, that was wow. That's it. You know, they did the Jake the Snake Robert one when they talked about his dad, Grizzly Smith, and that was pretty bad. This one, disturbing. Oh my word. I'm not going to spoil it for you, Johnny Bottles, but it's a definite worth watching program, and it just opened my eyes about so much stuff about that family. It's crazy. Don, you saw the whole thing too as well, correct?
Yeah, I watched it all, man. It is, you know, we hear about the Von Erichs, and they were real family and the tragedy that's befallen them. And the Graham family were family in name only, except for two of the people in the show this week. And it ended just as badly as it did for the Von Erichs. And the one thing I've heard about was a Dr. Jerry Graham story. And Bottles, I'm sure you've heard it by now. But when his mother passed away, he barged the hospital with a shotgun, setting off a round in the waiting room, taking her dead body, and all he kept screaming is, "I just want to bury my mother." They said by then he had completely gone over the edge and had lost his mind completely. He was batshit crazy at that point in time.
I've heard that story. I have heard that story. The story of Mike Graham also.
Yeah.
With the suicide.
Yeah.
The suicide. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the pressure that running the wrestling business, living that lifestyle must completely destroy a family. I mean, it's just.
Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine. You know,
Von Erichs.
What I got out of it too, there was some really cool stuff in this show. I don't want to spoil it for you, but B. Brian Blair was trained under the Graham family, and he talked about some of the stuff that Dr. Jerry Graham put him through to get him in the wrestling business, breaking people's arms to show how tough he was. He also had Kevin Sullivan came up in the Grahams. Now, I knew Kevin Sullivan was in Florida, but the part about the Graham connection had totally lost me on that point. I totally didn't realize he had come up training in that school of thought.
Same here. I didn't know he trained with them like that. Same here. And I knew he was a big Florida guy. And we all know what Kevin Sullivan did and who he was responsible for creating in that persona at that time. But yeah, very. I mean, tragic. To say the word tragic is an understatement, without a doubt, 100%. Because wow, to have to endure that stuff.
What do you think was worse, Don? The Von Erich family or the Graham family?
Man, I got to go.
It's a tough call.
Yeah.
It is.
But I think it's the Von Erichs just because of how it all went down. The one brother passes away tragically, unexpected in Japan. And then you have, was it 2 suicides, I want to say? There's only one brother left now.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, Kevin is the only one left.
Yeah, and he was in Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he's been
Yeah.
the past several decades. And you're talking about the Von Erichs were Texas wrestling for over a decade. They were Texas wrestling.
Oh,
that was their territory. You could not go in there with a free pass without getting a can of whoop ass delivered by one of them Von Erich boys. And they meant it. And the people of Texas meant it. And, man, if they lost, you better get out of there quick. You might have a riot.
You know, it's funny that they were faces, because Fritz started as a German heel, as a foreign heel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very evil, a very tough customer, Fritz Von Erich, when he started out. And then somehow he's segued over into being a face.
And those matches with the Freebirds all those years. My God, well, we've seen clips and watched actually a couple different tapings that came over on TV when it was live happening over in WCCW. And just the electricity of the crowd. You had your one side of fans that were the Von Erich fans, and you had your other good old boys that were the, whiskey swilling, tobacco chewing rednecks that loved the Freebirds. And they would war. You got all these women, all these girls, the Von Erichs, they came out there and those screams, just like when the Midnight Express or the Rock and Roll Express would roll out. Mainly chicks,
Yeah.
But when the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, anytime they matched up, A, packed house, B, crazy heat coming from both sides, C, you couldn't fit another person in there with a shoehorn, and you didn't know sometimes if you were going to make it out alive, because they actually, you guys have seen the ones with the Freebirds in the cage against the Von Erichs and people trying to climb the ring and stuff like that and getting there, and cops arresting people. And that's, it's something that's desperately missed in pro wrestling. I don't think you could pull it off today. You can't, because of all the liabilities and lawsuits, I believe. But that is one thing right there where I remember just going into Portland a couple times when I got to see the Portland Pro Wrestling up at the Portland Sports Arena. And being in that place, and I just thank God my brother, my dad, and mom were there, because there were times I was legitimately worried that we weren't going to make it out, worried.
So, and the other part about the Eddie Graham story that really caught my attention, I knew he had become, I'd heard the stories about his massive drinking problem there at the end of his life. But, not to spoil it for you, Johnny, but there's a story that the neighbor talks about where he would go to this liquor store every night on the way home, buy a cheap bottle of wine, and then throw it out the window when he was done with it, driving home in the swamp. Well, one night after a match or one of his shows, I can't remember which one, the liquor store had closed. He didn't make it there in time. He went to the swamp looking for the bottles he had thrown in the swamp, drinking the dredge that was left in those bottles of alcohol.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Let that sink in, Johnny.
Sitting out there for days, for weeks, percolating in the Florida heat, in the mud.
Insect maybe thrown in the bottle. Yes, sir. That's when you're devoted. You were tied to that bottle. You were buried with that bottle. You were in the bottom of it, no matter what, man. It's hard to escape something like that, man.
Yeah.
So, when you get a chance, watch it. It's a dark story. This is one of the darker ones I've seen. Most of them, look, let's face it. Wrestling's not always rainbows and lollipops, man. There's some bad stuff that happened back there a long time ago. And, guys were cutthroat, and it was a business. And if you weren't on top, you weren't making money. So,
right.
I don't begrudge any of them for what they had to do to make a living for their family. I'm not saying it was the best thing they could have done, or it was the most, centered as a human being. But I understand, mistakes are made and nobody's perfect. Speaking of nobody being perfect, AEW was on last night.
What do you think of that show?
I thought the first 30 minutes were pretty damn entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Because of one guy.
Well, you go ahead, Bottles. I'm not going to say it because I'll call
No.
Hit it, Bottle. Lay it on us,
Okay.
baby. Let's hear it.
MJF, the
Yep.
best heel in the business right now. The best heel in the
100%.
Yep.
Well, he's the best heel in
the
their business. I'll say that.
He can talk. He's jacked. Not a tall guy. Wears lifts in his shoes. Nothing wrong with that. Jericho's done it for years. Michaels did it. They had lifts in their shoes, and he could put on fantastic matches. Adam Cole had his working shoes on last night. And if you notice the way they paced that match, they ran for a half hour, which I was surprised about. It was an old school match at first. Begging off, the heel champ begging off from the face. Then he resorts to heel tactics to gain an advantage. Outside the ring, a little guy outside the ring, but not too much. The one spot where he set him up on the table.
Hold on, one question for you, Johnny.
Yes.
Did you like where he flipped the fan's hat off in the audience?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Grab the bucket of the popcorn bucket out of the guy's hand and throw it.
Yeah.
That's Motor, that's a slice right out of Piper's playbook when he used to walk through the crowd.
100% agree. That is an old school fight because Rowdy, we all know how he was. He would have done the same thing. And to me, I've actually spoken to Don about this before too, and some of the other guys. To me, MJF is like a modern day Piper.
Yes.
He really is, because the amount of heat that man gets and what he does. What was the one he did not too long ago where he took the kid's drink and spilled it out?
Yeah,
right
the
on
mom's
TV.
drink. Threw it on the
Yep,
kid.
mom's
He
drink.
took the mother's drink. He took the mother's drink and threw it in the kid's face. And it had vodka in it.
I saw that. I went, oh, no. And I was like, right on, MJF. That a boy, dude. That's how you do it, and then to me, when they hit that heel pinnacle, I guess you could say, where they're hated by everybody, women, children, everybody. If they ever get to turn baby, at some point, it might happen. If they ever do, it turns even that much sweeter. Look what happened to Piper when he turned babyface for the first time.
Yeah.
Huge chant. And he still had, I think he actually gained more fans because now the fans forgave him. Oh, you're good now, Roddy. Everything's cool. We love you. Boom. There you go. So and me personally, if I ever got into professional wrestling, I would want to be a heel first. I would want to be that guy they throw the tomatoes at, they throw the beer at, they yell at you, they want to slash your tires in the parking lot. I would have wanted to been that guy, definitely at first. But then, you get older, you're thinking, oh, can I carry this heel thing out for that much longer? I don't know. But if I go babyface, I'm going to get a whole new repertoire and group of fans, and we'll see what happens, know?
So, Johnny, you were saying they were in the audience and they came back.
Talking about MJF?
Yes, sir.
MJF and Adam Cole. MJF jumped up on the top turnbuckle and came off the top rope onto that table on top of Adam Cole. Ref came out to check on both of them. They were out there a little long. I mean, the ref was very judicious with his count. 1, Mississippi, Mississippi, Mississippi.
Yes.
2, Mississippi, 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 Mississippi. 3, Mississippi, Mississippi. Come on.
If AEW
really
ever ends in a countout, it's going to shock every fan in the building because the countouts in AEW are non-existent.
Yep.
One thing they did wrong, though, it was a half-hour match, a 30-minute time limit. When it came down to the last 10 minutes, they should have had a clock on the screen.
Thank you.
Showing the time ticking away, and the announcers would even mention it. But when the bell rang, the announcers were like, what happened?
Thank you, Johnny. I'm glad you said that. I'm not the only one that noticed it. The bell rang twice. Ding, ding. And the announcers go, what happened? What's going on? Bro, you're the announcer. You tell me what the hell's going on. Luckily, I've been watching this crap for 40-something years. I knew what had just happened. But the referee looked dumbfounded. The wrestlers look confused. And the announcers go, what? What just happened? Why'd the bell ring? Dude, how the hell do you not know in your own storyline that it's a 30-minute time limit?
Have you noticed?
Thank you.
One thing happened last night. What happened a couple times last night that we've talked about in the past on this show. Motor, you remember back in the old days when a match would end in a screw job finish and then everybody would fight and people come out of the dressing room, it'd be a big brawl, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy ringing the bell, which
Ding,
is
ding,
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 ding, ding,
ding,
ding,
ding,
ding,
ding,
ding,
ding.
ding. Get somebody out here. Ding, ding. Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
They're doing that now on AEW. Maybe somebody's watching the show. Who knows? Maybe Aubrey Edwards is watching the show. I have no idea. But are they taking our advice, Don? Who knows? But they did it.
Yeah.
I think they did it at the end of the MJF match. They were ringing a bell a couple of times. They were
And
ringing a bell with the Elite at the end of the show. The Elite versus Blackpool Combat
Oh,
Club.
the Blackpool Combat Club. Yes, they did that too, didn't they?
Yes, they
I
ding,
want to
ding,
get to
ding,
that
ding,
in a
ding,
minute.
ding, ding, ding.
I want to get to that, but I just want to
let's
know.
get to
You
that
know,
one.
Johnny, I'm glad you said that though, and we got a comment here from Wrestling Fans Inc.
Yes.
talking about Domino is getting the legit heat. So talking about Dominic, he is getting the heat. I'll agree with that all the way. But the part about that got me was just what happened to announcers telling me the story through the TV. I had Jim Ross back in the day. That was my guy. He's the one that made me believe. He told the story. He kept me engaged. Taz can do the job, but I feel like they got him on a leash with whatever they've got going on that show because they shouldn't have acted confused when the match ended. Like you said, there should have been a countdown clock. There should have been something because when the bell rang, everybody just looked around confused. There was no, man moment. It was just, huh? What? It looked like my dog when I say, do you want to go outside? Oh?
And the AEW
fans,
they accept that stuff. They're like, oh, well, it just ended the match. It's like they don't realize what could have happened and what they should have done. They just, match is over, no big deal. It's like, no, you could have drug it out a little bit longer and done a lot more had you done the damn bell thing. And when that count happened, the 3 count, and then the bell rang, just like you were saying, Dawn, I was like, I just stopped. I'm like, oh no, not this.
Yeah.
And the other part is, so I guess Aubrey Edwards, is she wrestling tomorrow night? Am I to hear that correctly?
The rumor was she was supposed to wrestle last night.
That's what I thought too.
I don't think they're going to put it on Rampage. If they do, they're stupid. They ought to make everybody pay for it. Like, what's the next pay-per-view that they have coming up?
Forbidden Door. Watch out, it's the Forbidden Door. Don't
What's
open
behind
that
the Forbidden Door?
No,
there's a random Japanese man that we have no idea.
behind that door that I've never freaking heard of. Watch out.
Yeah, someday behind the door, it's going to be something like this. Be like, what's up? Let's wrestle.
with an axe.
Yep, exactly.
You know, they had a guy who did the Jason gimmick down in Puerto Rico for Frontier. Was it the Philippines? Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling hardcore group. I don't think that's Puerto Rico. I think that was Japan. A Japan hardcore death match organization. There was a guy who wrestled in the whole gimmick as Jason the Terrible. You had Dr. Frankenstein, who was Frankenstein's monster. You had Leatherface,
which was played by Corporal Kirshner. Corporal Kirshner did that for a while. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he wrestled twice.
Yep.
Like Playboy Bobby Starr.
Yep.
Corporal Kirshner, and then later on in the show, he's Leatherface.
Yep.
But it was all death matches. But there was a guy who did that Jason gimmick, by the way.
So I kept watching the show. I gutted through it, and it just each segment of the show last night I felt was a little less and a little less and a little less. And then we had the Darby Allin come out to confront help me out. What's his name?
Sammy Guevara.
Sammy Guevara was out there.
He's a heel.
I guess. And then he's like, oh, look, they're cheering you. What? Dude, I don't want to cheer that guy. He's a swarmy heel. But I don't even know what that was. Chris Jericho and Sting trading bats.
I like that.
You did.
Legends. Jericho, even though he's washed up in the ring, he's a legend. He really is. Think about all the good stuff he's done in the past. You can't write that off because he can hardly go now. He looks like he's about to keel over at the end of his matches with these young guys. But that segment right there still did 890,000. This is where it started to fall off a little bit. I'm looking at the numbers. They were at 890,000 at the last 6 minutes of the Cole MJF match. It bled over into Sammy and Darby's promo. Then Jericho came out. They only lost 25,000 people.
So what was the starting number and what did it end at?
This is fascinating. Now, listen to what I'm saying to you. It started at 918,000 viewers.
Okay, so
The show did.
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory.
Yep.
Big lead in from that. However, they kept everybody. It only went down to 889,000.
You know what that tells me?
What's that?
MJF is the draw.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. 890 for the, like I said, for the Sammy Darby thing. You want to know where it fell off? Take a wild guess where it fell off. You guys saw the show, right?
Yeah, I did. I'm going to guess the
Okay.
women's match.
The women's match
Yeah.
is what I was going to say.
It started at 792.
Oh, my God.
This whole segment, you had 792, which was the finish of Wardlow versus Jake Hager. You had the Christian Cage and Luchasaurus promo. The Arn Anderson thing in the background where he's sitting on the steps bleeding, and they did it. You had a backstage angle with Orange Cassidy, Danny Garcia, and Zack Sabre Jr. together. And then the Tony Storm and Sky Blue match started. Then they lost 50,000 people.
Wow.
They went down to like around 745,000. The end of the show bottomed out at 699,000.
Dude, get out of here. Is that their lowest number ever?
No one wants to see the Elite.
That's got to be one of the lowest ever.
No one wants to see the Elite. I'm sorry.
No.
Every time they're on, when they did that series of matches for the trios belts, it was Olivia. I'm getting ready to call him Olivia. Like Jim Cornette. Omega and the Bucks fought in that tournament for the 6-man belts. And every time they did those matches, they bottomed out. And now this proves it. 699,000 for the last 15 minutes of the show. When that match started, nobody wants to see those guys. Or
if I see another double god dang leg kick, the slappy super kick, I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss for words right now, guys. Go ahead, talk amongst yourself, please. Thank you.
You're getting that young buck anger.
Yeah.
When you see them on screen, you figure they got to be heels because everybody wants to slap them in the face.
I was wondering if, I can't believe the numbers came out. I really appreciate that, Bottles, for getting us that information because, like I said, I was watching the show last night, and I'm glad it's not just me because I watched it. I suffered through it so we could do the show today. And the more I watched, the more I thought it's less than. We're getting more and more less than. Here come the Bucks and this Blackpool crap. This is going to be less than. It ended in a farce. It was total ridiculousness at the end. And I wanted to point out Eddie Kingston running to the ring.
Running.
Did you see him running?
If you could call that running.
Dude, he looked like Forrest Gump.
A downhill stagger. That's what it looked like.
Run, Forrest, run.
Dude, I thought he was going to eat
run.
it.
Yeah, run, Eddie, run.
He was going to eat it, man. God, I thought he was going down and
Christ almighty.
Dude,
holy shit, that guy is not athletic.
I thought he was going to fall. I swear, it was so unnatural to see him run. It almost looked fake. I'm like, what's he trying to do? Oh, he's going to fall down. And then I thought he had like leg problems, like he got leg cramps or something, because that's what it was like, man.
I thought it was a rogue DoorDash driver running back to the arena fighting over lack of tip. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah.
He's been off TV for the past week or last month or so. You know where he's been? He's been in catering. That's obvious.
No, he was hurt. He was. I see what you're going there.
He was hurting that buffet.
I see where you're going
He
there.
put
He
a
was hurt.
dip
Good point, Don.
Generally, when someone's hurt and they come back more jacked up than they were when they left because they've been working out and rehabbing their injury and all that. Not Eddie Kingston. Look, he looks like he's been lifting cannolis instead of weights.
He wasn't in the best of shape when he was there the first time. And yeah, look, I'm not the gym guy. I work out 3 times a week. I'm a fat old man, but they're not paying me to work out. It literally looks like he sat home for 3 months playing video games doing nothing. I've never seen him look that bad.
Exactly. Agreed.
Going to the Hogan quote. You heard the Hulk Hogan quote, Motor, that he came out with last week?
No.
He
said I have not.
These guys in the wrestling business nowadays, they don't dress the part. They don't try to look the part. The majority of them, the young kids out there, look like they should be bagging groceries at Publix.
I don't want to be.
He's right about that. He's right about that.
Look,
Yeah.
I don't want John Moxley bagging my groceries. He's going to bleed like hell over my tomatoes, and I don't need that shit.
You need help out to your car? I can help you to your car.
You get home with your groceries.
Glass.
Somebody cut all the cantaloupes with razor blade. That's what the hell happened. Somebody gigged the tomatoes.
That would have been him. That's all would have been Mox.
Been him.
I just remember last night's match was total nonsense. It was, I mean, why do we have a referee in these matches anymore with the Young Bucks and the Blackpool? Why is there a ref? He doesn't do anything. He just stands there.
Because they tell him everybody's got to get their shit in.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got to get all their big moves in. Everybody's got to wait until I get up on that top turnbuckle, and then you all gather around at the bottom like a bunch of idiots, and then catch me when I jump.
And then catch me. Yay. Yeah, catch me. You know what? Back in the day, I know damn well some of the guys in the 80s for AWA, let's go with WCCW, some of the other promotions back then, I guarantee you, just to pull a rib on a guy, hey, let me get up on the top rope. Okay, you come jump down, we'll catch you. They would have moved. Been like, oh, sorry, dude, let's not do that spot anymore, huh? Go get back in the ring.
Samoa Joe used to do that. Samoa Joe used to do that when he was in NXT. Remember that?
Yeah.
Somebody would jump off the top.
Yeah.
Yep.
He'd go.
And he'd be like,
sidestep.
I ain't doing, I'll sidestep you. Exactly.
The problem is, back in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of people coming up through the business started watching lucha and Japanese wrestling, where all that's prevalent. Big setup, like a 2-minute setup on the top turnbuckle so you can jump off on somebody. And when all the guys got to do is just step away. Or as you come off, punch you in the face. Come on. But they think that's a cool spot, and they all start doing it. And now it's the look at the ropes, look at the crowd, the guys, your opponents outside the ring. You run to the opposite side, bounce off, and jump through the ropes. Repeat. I've seen somebody do it. I think Rollins did it, didn't he? Recently, like 4 times.
Yeah. 3 or 4 times, or yeah.
In one match.
One match.
In one match.
One match.
I'm not a fan of it. Last night was a cherry on top of all of that. I also did see, though, where, the end of the match, so the Ospreay guy, right?
Yes.
I don't know much about him. The only reason I know about him is because when he's on AEW. But he looks the part. I mean, I don't know much about the kid. He looks the part. He looks damn serious when he's in that ring. I know that. I know when that match last night, when that whole thing broke out, I didn't buy anything that happened in that match. I didn't buy anything that happened at the end. But when that dude got in the ring, a guy I've rarely seen, I bought that dude. That guy looked like he was pissed and had a problem with somebody.
That guy needed to wear a T-shirt that said, "My name is Will Ospreay," just so you know who he is.
This is true.
Because I couldn't pick him out of a police lineup.
Yeah, I couldn't either. And I know, yeah, exactly.
And he's a talented kid over in Japan. He does all kinds of crazy maneuvers and all that. He does things to his body that, like a la Mick Foley used to do. So
wasn't he also an MMA guy? Didn't he do MMA training, Will Ospreay, that type of stuff as well?
I'm not sure if that was him or Zack Sabre Jr., which is another.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting him mixed up with it. Yeah. Okay.
Might be Zack Sabre Jr. I always get the two confused too. Also.
But when he came in the ring, did you buy him? Were you sitting there thinking, okay, they're saying that's Will Ospreay. I've heard of him. Even I don't watch New Japan. I've heard of the guy because he's in a lot of clips that I listen to on YouTube and a lot of the podcasts I listen to. When he got in the ring, did you believe he was there to beat somebody's ass or he was there to play act?
He was ready to rock and roll. Guaranteed. That look, you don't see it. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
He was ready to go. And it worked because it wasn't just a taped backstage promo.
Mm-hmm.
Forbidden Door, it's going to be you and me, Kenny Omega, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. He was in the ring in the thick of things, which is what they need to do. And it looks like someone who actually booked wrestling shows before.
Yes.
Over the last 20 years, sat down and wrote that show with whoever. I don't know, it's the regular people involved, like Tony Khan, QT Marshall, and Pat Buck. Well, I don't know whether Arn got involved. I heard Bryan Danielson's involved in writing segments for the show. Will Washington from Fightful, who just got hired from 2 months ago. by them, is throwing his input in. He was just going to be a social media manager. Now he's actually in wrestling operations. So whatever they did, whatever they tried to do, I looked at that show last night as a reset. Somebody hit a reset button and jump-started that promotion with MJF and Adam Cole. You don't know if there's going to be there's probably going to be a rematch down the road somewhere, but everybody wants him. Everybody wants that, take that belt from him. It's fascinating. The Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Sting, and Darby Allin. I forgot Darby Allin. That little scenario that they put together with the bats and all that was. I thought they were going to start swinging those bats around and whacking each other with it. I thought it was going to be the old NWO gimmick bats where they sawed them in the segments. Remember when they would whack people, the NWO with the black bats? You know what those bats were?
Oh, yeah.
They were wooden bats, but they sawed them in pieces, in segments. Like, they were like Sweet Tarts in a wrapper.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
They were like that. They would wrap them up in black electrical tape. So if you whack somebody with that, it was wrapped up enough to hold it together, but it would also look like you broke the bat. And if you hit somebody with it, it wouldn't tickle, but it wouldn't kill you either.
Right.
That's how they did it.
I know when they first debuted, they did have the metal bats. So I remember that because Kevin Nash, Eric Bischoff, where somebody told Kevin Nash, don't take a real, back to the door and or real back to the ring. And he said, "Nah, I'm hitting the staircase with this metal bat. They're going to know it's real because if I don't, nobody's going to buy it."
Right.
So I'm glad I'm not alone on that show last night. It got, worse as it went along. I don't know. I'll try to watch again next week, but it might be hot. I'll put it to you this way. If they start off again next week like they did this week, you got to keep going. You can't stop there. You can have your down moments, but you can't be a whole down moment after that.
Right.
They need a hot women's division angle to keep people interested in the women's division. Only thing I can think of right now is Toni Storm is the ladies' champ. She's the women's champion. Why not Jade Cargill? Bring her out. Have her say, I was holding the TBS championship. I'm tired of that. I'm all done with that right now. Why wouldn't I go for the bigger gold?
So,
and I'm an AEW original. I'm going to take that belt from Toni Storm. Turn her face. She could be the face of the women's division. She could do the same thing she did with the TBS championship with that belt. However, she's going to have to learn a few more moves.
Yeah. And I think that might be what she's doing now, Johnny, is going away and learning a new hold. Like, get a little bit more ring savvy. She's got the look. The mic is coming in, but she's got to get a little bit more time in the ring. You brought up Hogan earlier.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned him because about a week ago, I got a little timeline on my phone. It was the 34-year anniversary that Hulk Hogan and the Big Boss Man had their Saturday night main event. So you know what I did, Bottles?
What'd you do?
What I did, Motorhead?
What'd you do?
I went back and watched that match because I keep hearing how Hogan and the guys in the 80s couldn't work and they were terrible and it looked like trash and it wasn't fast-paced. And as I'm watching the match, you know what occurred to me?
Hogan can work?
You got
Hogan
two
can work.
300-pound giants in the ring. When they did something, it meant everything. When somebody got slammed, when somebody got thrown into the ropes, when somebody got the big boot, it looked like hell because that's a large human being doing it to you.
That's right.
Absolutely. But those guys were believable. They were believable. You wouldn't have Hogan wrestling Orange Cassidy. You wouldn't have a big boss man wrestling someone the size of, I don't know, Danhausen.
Oh.
For that matter, where the hell's Danhausen at? Was he on Rampage? I don't watch Rampage, so I don't know. Anyway, I digress. And we're going off in a different tangent right now. We're keeping back in the 80s.
March 27th, 1989, man. Veterans Memorial Auditorium in Des Moines, Iowa. Saturday night main event, Hogan versus Big Boss Man.
And it was sold out.
Sold out.
Nothing but love for Saturday night's main event. Nothing but love for it.
Every time I still hear that song, I'm like, I get pumped up when I start slamming somebody with some pillows because me and my brother used to watch all the time. And we'd get after each other in the ring. But and Ray at that time, Trey, their big boss man, he just come over from Crockett, just a little bit earlier. And this is, so 88, he made his WWF debut as his heel persona, the big boss man, based on a character that he created because he used to be a corrections officer. And you guys remember when he used to handcuff people in the ring and beat them with a ball and chain or his nightstick or whatever?
Nightstick, yes.
Yeah. He'd handcuff him to beat the hell out of dude. Then in fact, my brother's favorite wrestler is a big boss man because when he used to twirl the stick and he had the shades and get out there, hey boy, you listen to me. He was a menacing premise of persona, but also, dude, for Hogan to do what he did and for them to work that out when they got on the top of that cage and they did the superplex off the top. Ray at that time was 353 pounds. 353 pounds, 6'7". And they both took off, and Hogan's just as big. And I swear, the first time I saw that, or the time I saw it live when it happened Saturday Night's Main Event, when it did happen, I thought the ring floor was going to break. I thought they were going to break the ring floor because there was that's a lot of beef to fly in the air, man. A lot of muscle.
I was watching it. I was 11 years old. This is my fandom is at an all-time high. I'm watching this, and as I'm watching Hogan go up, the turnbuckle, I'm thinking, how's he going to get him back in the ring? Because you didn't never see Hogan take that kind of a bump. Never. He'd get body slammed. He'd get leg dropped. He'd get elbow dropped. You didn't see Hogan coming off the top rope, and for good reason. When you're a large man like that, the last thing you want to do is land on your legs and end up like Sid Vicious did in WCW where his legs snapped in half. That's a lot of meat coming off of the top of that rope.
Yeah.
And when Big Boss Man came off the top of the cage with Hogan on the top turnbuckle, my dad looked at me and said, well, that settled that shit. And I came unglued as a kid running around in my damn underwear. Woo! Hyped to no end. I just saw the coolest spot I would ever see in my life.
He was a superhero. Hogan was. He was a superhero for all the kids. And the heels back then were the most evil. Now, Vince always liked people to have a profession, the wrestlers. Like Duke the Dumpster Droese, the boss man was a corrections officer. Nails was a convict. He always likes to have a profession for these guys. Does anybody remember Thurman Sparky Plug?
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
The great Hardcore Holly.
Poor Holly.
Gimmick.
Poor Hardcore Holly.
That was his first gimmick. So Vince liked the gimmicks like that, but he also liked foreign heels. Killer Khan. Remember Killer Khan?
Oh, yes.
And, of course, the Sheik, Volkov, Mr. Fuji, Toru Tanaka, all those guys. Rich history of foreign heels and gimmicked heels having the professions. But Boss Man, that gimmick that he had, he rode that to the very end. Now, when he went back to WCW after his run was over with Vince, he went back there for a bit, and he was the Guardian Angel.
Yeah,
I was going to say Guardian Angel. Yeah, that was a little different for me, a little different, but
a little
it
weird,
was still
but
Ray. Yeah.
Shout out to John Couch real quick. He's listening to us. He agreed with us on Eddie Kingston's new shape being a little bit large.
That's right, John Couch.
But
Eddie looks like he was bench pressing quarter pounders.
A lot of them. But when I saw the spot, and the other part that I forgot about that Big Boss Man match, that was Zeus coming out in his debut in the WWF. That was his debut.
God, that's right.
And he just beat down Hogan, threw him in the ring, and Slick, I hadn't seen Slick in forever. And
the Doctor Style
man on the outside with a sleeping bag.
It's the Slickster. What's happening?
Slick is still around. He's still doing the gimmick on the convention circuit. And he was like 22 back then. 20? He was a young kid. He looked older, but he was young back then. Reverend Slick.
I watched the match, and if anybody's ever not seen it, go back and watch it. And when you watch it, remember, oh yeah, by the way, Boss Man got blood. He went the hard way. He got punched with a chain and got it the hard way. There was no
Yeah, he
zip.
did.
He got
Yep.
smacked with a chain and got it the hard way. And Hogan, when he landed it the first time, I was like, ooh, that look, I don't think that was working at all. And then he did it again. I was like, nope, that guy's going to bleed. There's going to be some blood now.
Exactly.
You don't see matches like that anymore.
No, not those ones where the crowd was electric as all heck. You guys know Saturday night's main event back then. You saw that the intro came on. Everybody did their little plugs from the locker rooms and whatever, and then started the match. And here you go. And I was always glued to the TV. And of course, I still got a ton of tapes and stuff and recorded, but I could not leave. I could not wait for Saturday night to come along when at that height, when it was that big. My grandparents, my grandmother, who didn't follow wrestling, but my grandfather did. My grandma, she knew who Hulk Hogan was and never watched a wrestling match in her life. And she knew exactly who he was because how big he got, and how big a lot of people bash on him, which we know. We get people that talk to us all the time on Twitter that say, oh, yeah, he was this, and this, no good. I'm sorry, but Hogan made wrestling to what it is today. And if it's a bold statement, fine, I'll stand by it. Without Hogan in the 80s, we probably wouldn't be having this podcast. That's just my opinion. And there's a lot of, the Ric Flairs, the Dusty Rhodes, the Harley Races. You can't discount anything those guys did do because they ran the trail and made the sacrifices as well. But when Hogan came along and Vince had that idea and then started poaching everybody, it just turned out to be a monster. And it did, Yep. Kudos.
The one other
now,
go ahead.
Hang on, Doc. I just want to ask one question. If Hogan didn't become big, if he didn't come along and help Vince expand the WWF into a global phenomenon with his star power, Crockett was going to go national. They were in the process of doing that. Starrcade was up against WrestleMania. Do you think that Crockett and Flair and Luger and Sting and those guys, they would have been the Hulk Hogan of their era without Hulk Hogan being in the WWF? Do you think Ric Flair would have been the most famous guy in the wrestling business and the NWA would have been number one?
I don't know because Luger, I love Luger, but Luger to me had about a 10-year period because he broke through in 87 in NWA or 86? Is that about right?
About that, yeah, that says that right.
Hogan was there in 84, right? Like that's when he won?
Crockett was looking for a younger Hulk Hogan. And they saw Luger, and Luger was ripped and had the hair, the mullet going and all that. Handsome guy. The women loved him. They didn't know what to do with him, though.
But it really did take Luger about 10 years to learn how to work in the ring. Because as he got older, his matches got so much better. His promos got better. To me, from like 96 to the end of his run in WCW, that was prime Luger era. That was when he was at his best, in my opinion. I enjoyed him in the Four Horsemen. I didn't enjoy him, and I didn't see him as a true fourth horseman. He was too big. He was too pretty. He was too chiseled. He didn't fit the mold of what the Horseman was to me. And Crockett, if Crockett hadn't made so many bad decisions, I think they'd still be in business today, competing with WWF. But he tried to buy out his competition, whereas Vince just undercut his competition for the TV deals. I mean, you can look at any book and figure it out. He underbid other guys. He got their TV rights, and that was the end of their TV show. Like that, it was over after that. But back to Hogan, I want to make this point. People always rip the guy about how he worked in the ring. They worked 300 plus days a year back then.
Absolutely.
I dare you to show me these guys that are flipping and diving. Do that for 300 dates in the year and tell me how many years they got in their body. Because they're not going to last more than 3.
Damn good point.
They couldn't.
I agree 100%.
That's why those guys, Motor, back in the old days, worked smart. They never left their feet. You never saw Dick Slater leave his feet or Harley Ray. Well, occasionally Harley would go up on the top rope for a splash, but none of this jumping backwards, moonsaults or any of this, and jumping into the crowd or anything like that. You never saw that. Never.
Dirty Dutch Mantel says it all the time still to this day. He says, back then we worked smarter, not harder, because we knew this was our livelihood. This is how we put bread on the table. This is how we feed our families. So why not let it ride? Why not stretch the match out? Why not do things in the ring that you don't have to take a serious bump all the damn time, every night, night after night, week after week? Work smarter, not harder. And, a lot of the guys that we grew up watching, we lost them because of, whatever, substances, alcohol. But as far as their bodies, I think most of them would still be around had they not delved in the other things, because they knew how to work. They knew how to work. And the guys that trained them told them, look, if you keep doing that, you're going to end up in a wheelchair. You're going to end up paralyzed. You're going to end up with a broken neck. Stop doing it. Slow down. Slow the match down. Tell the story. Let the people see and believe you and read you in the ring.
They tell them nowadays. The veterans tell the guys in other promotions, the young guys who do all the flippy stuff and jumping out into the crowd and triple moonsaults and all this stuff, that you're going to kill yourself.
Yep.
But they don't listen. They got to get their shit in.
They got to get it in. They got to get that high spot in. Yep.
So, Johnny, I know you had a couple of topics you wanted to cover.
I want to talk about the strange case of Frankie Kazarian. You familiar with Frankie Kazarian, Motor? Journeyman wrestler. He's been
I do
around.
remember him. He was in TNA for a while.
He was in NXT.
NXT too. I remember him early on, but I never watched him later on. Big guy, good looking dude.
Yeah.
I always was curious as to why he didn't get the bigger push that he should have got.
Well, they didn't see him as a star in WWE, so he left NXT when his contract ran out, and he went to TNA, where he had a lot of success in TNA. Then he got signed to AEW. He was the inaugural, with Scorpio Sky, the inaugural World Tag Team Champ. He was one half of that with Scorpio Sky in AEW. And he had a contract, a multi-year contract with them. He's just signed a deal with TNA. Well, Impact. It's called Impact now, wrestling. And he's signed a multi-year deal with them at the age of 45. He said, the type of wrestling that I enjoy and that I grew up with and that I like to do, AEW's changed into something completely different. That's why I'm not there. Impact Wrestling, he said, was they're following an old school format in the way they put matches together and things. Like, they got their flippy guys too. They've got some, cruiserweights there, light heavyweight guys there, but it's a little company that's trying. Impact is the little engine that could. Wasn't it a golden book we read when we were kids?
Biggest little engine that died.
Classic.
But Frankie was very disenchanted with the way he was treated in AEW, and now he's in Impact.
Did you see the comments from the AEW loyalists when he criticized the company? And it wasn't anything like he slammed them, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit.
He was tactful. He was very tactful with his comments. Yeah.
But there's a niche of fans in wrestling that, I'm going to call them the jabronis. That if you say, hey, I wish AEW, like we just did, hey, AEW's opening segment was really good, but the rest of it was bad. You're a WWE mark, man. You don't know what good wrestling is. Dude, calm your ass down. It ain't that serious, man. Calm down. I'm giving you my opinion. You can say, well, I liked it. Okay, moving about my business. But the numbers don't lie. 690,000 people were on that last match. You want to know why? It's not a good product. So don't tell me, the wrestling consumer that has the Peacock, that'll buy the pay-per-views, what is good and what isn't, because you got 2 million people out there not watching your show week in and week out.
Yep.
After all these years, they're trying to improve their booking. They're trying to. Last night looked like, when AEW, it was a cornucopia of different styles of professional wrestling. You had an old school match, Motor, MJF and Adam Cole. Old school match where, they left their feet. I always talk about old school matches. Guys don't leave their feet. They left their feet. They had some of the flippy stuff involved for that particular crowd, but the rest of it was a hard, scrappy, bare knuckle brawl with the multiple knee pad down off the knee, kicks in the back of the head, all that bullshit. Even with the ring, the huge ring he's got, they clocks people with. Straight out, like Sir William Regal. We used to pull the brass knucks out.
Yes.
Yeah.
George Animal Steel used to pull the. It looked like a bunch of, I don't know what that was, Don. A bunch of tongue depressors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abdul
up
the
in,
butcher. Abdul's popsicle stick. Pull out of his tights.
Right. And you never knew what that thing was, but he'd make people bleed with it. It was the softest thing you probably could hit somebody with.
Goddamn popsicle stick.
Yeah. They had a lot of that in there. The ladies' match was the young up-and-comer fighting from underneath against the grizzled, world-traveled veteran of Tony Storm. Sky Blue was a girl's name. She hadn't won a match since, but she won a match. She won the match to qualify for a title shot against Tony Storm. This is the first match she's won in a long time. And she lost last night, but what they did was they made a star out of Sky Blue because she had more offense than this I've ever seen her have. It was a cornucopia of different wrestling styles all put together, which I dug it until the last match of the evening as Don shakes his head. Don Wayne's shaking his head.
Not reliving it. Nope.
He's going to look for a drink of water to rinse the taste out of his mouth from that shitty match.
Motor, I know
you know the Young Bucks now, Motor? They're Cowboys now. Have you seen that?
What's that?
Did you see the last match from AEW last night? You didn't see it? Look up bits and pieces of it. See some clips on YouTube of that last match when he came out. They're wearing cowboy hats, jackets, black and white, with fringes and tassels hanging off their hat. They look like, remember that movie with Steve Martin and Chevy Chase and Martin Short from years ago? The Three Amigos?
The Three Amigos.
Remember that? They look like the Three Amigos walking to the ring. What the hell is this?
I'm not doing this.
I know. The Elite they don't do anything for me, and they never have, and they never will. And then they get Hangman Adam Page, which some people call Bangman Madam Butterfly. When he came out there and started to be like a real cowboy, badass dude, I'm thinking, you know what? I grew up with real cowboy guys like Stan Hansen, the Lariat, Black Jack Mulligan, guys like that, Black Bart. The Long Riders, guys that you believe actually beat the, bullwhip, did the whole 9 yards on cattle ranches and stuff. Were like real Western guys. He comes out there and it's like, oh, no. It's like the Kmart version of a cowboy. He's like a Kmart cowboy, as far as I'm concerned.
Kmart cowboy. That's a good name for him. The Kmart Butterfly Cowboy.
So, Motor, I know you read a book recently you want to talk about Kamala.
Yes, sir.
I know he was one of your favorite guys.
And I just want to say thank you.
We got there.
Don, for my figure, for Kamala. Appreciate that, brother.
You're welcome, brother.
This book by Kenny Casanova is Kamala Speaks. Let me go ahead and put that in front of my face for a little bit, get a little plug. If you guys are wrestling fans, and I know you guys tuning in the show, love the old school stuff too, this is a must-read. Kenny Casanova, the whole lifestyle of James Sugar Bear Harris, and amazing book. It took me 2 days to go start to finish with this thing. I'm going to try to do a plug every week of some of my favorite books. This is definitely one of the best ones I've read in the last 5 or 6 years. Go on and get yourself a copy. They're on Amazon, also on bookstop.com.
And he's no longer with us.
Yes, unfortunately.
He's no longer with us, man. God rest his soul. Because he was the guy that really, yeah. Poor guy.
I'm actually in the process of reading Guy Evans' book, Nitro. I've read it once, but it was when it first came out. And, we're hoping to get hooked up with him and possibly have him on the show. He's really in depth with the writing. I've enjoyed everything I've seen so far with Guy Evans. Yeah. Some of the stuff that's not in this book I didn't know about. And, I've got a million questions I want to ask this guy about the process he had to go through to pull up, because this book came out in, I want to say, 2018. I'd like to know how long it took him to write this book and how many people, he had to go through to find these memos and these documents that he had, and that he quoted in the book. It's so amazing. Some of the stuff that happened, some of the backstage stuff that happened. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting him on the show. Guy Evans' book, Nitro. It's in depth. It's a really intelligent read. I've loved it so far.
Excellent.
Can't wait to talk to him.
I'd like to say that we got a feeler out to Leilani Kai. great women's wrestler from the 70s.
Nice.
Leilani Kai and Miss Kai, you haven't responded but to my message on Twitter. But I'd just like to say, if somehow you're watching or someone who knows you's watching, we're very, very into the old school type of wrestling matches, the days of yesteryear. We also love women's wrestling, and you were one of the pioneers of that. So please consider coming on the show. I'll send you another DM sometime this week. And I'll slide into your DMs, Leilani. As the kids say, I slid into her DMs.
Slid into the DM.
And one more shout out to Bobby Starr. Really enjoyed him last week. He was a
Bobby Starr is a mensch. That guy, I tell you one thing.
He's amazing.
He's unbelievable. You ask him how to saw a 2x4, he'll tell you how to build a house.
That's right. That guy
talk.
It was a full-on history lesson for me. Full-on. I learned more having him on the show in the last, in that hour he was on there. Things I'd never heard of before, things I thought could have happened and actually did. Excellent guest. Appreciate you, Bobby. Thank you, man. We'd like to have you on again sometime. We're also working on a man named Moondog Moretti. If you guys haven't heard of him, check him out. He was in Pacific Northwest Wrestling in Portland, and he's local around here. And that's another one we're trying to get on the show as well.
Well, shout out to Crowbar. I hope to talk to you soon, brother. I saw you DM me. I'm going to be in contact. I really want to have you on the show, too. I think you've got a hell of a story to tell. You've been in the business a long time. Other than that, gentlemen, anything else on the topic that you want to discuss today?
Take us home, Don.
Can I tell you the muffler story? Have I told you the muffler story?
I don't know the muffler story.
Oh, is it the muffler story with Dusty Rhodes?
And John Nord?
Say it.
There's a man named John Nord who was Nord the Barbarian in the AWA, and he would come out in a Viking outfit with the horns, very similar to
Berserker.
He was the Berserker in WWE. Vince tweaked it, changed the name a little bit, and he wanted John Nord to be his version of Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody used to come out and say, "Huss, huss, 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 H-U-S-S." Whatever the hell that means. Huss. I don't know.
It means get the hell out of the ring.
Yes. This. And John Nord would walk around, huss, huss, huss. Don't know. But when he started out, he was a big jacked up college kid. He's sitting in the Rosemont Horizon at an AWA show. Just got hired by Vern Gagne. And he's in the locker room, and he's shy. He's a little scared to talk to the guys. But he introduced himself and, shook hands with everybody like you're supposed to do. And there's guys walking around, stark naked, Dusty Rhodes, Jerry Blackwell, Larry the Axe Hennig. I'm trying to think of who else was there. Murdoch. And they're walking around, and they've got a roll of toilet paper, and they're wrapping it around their hands, their fingers. And they're wedging the toilet paper into, let's say, their gluteal cleft.
Yes, I know this one. Keep going.
And he's just sitting there like this. He just laced up his boots. He's looking around. And Dusty Rhodes came over and said, "Big Johnny, you got your muffler in?" Muffler? What's a muffler? What are you talking about? What a muffler? Oh, you got to have your muffler in. No, I don't need a muffler. Thanks anyway. I appreciate that, though. But I don't need a muffler. Dusty took his roll of toilet paper and went back about his business, and they all pulled their trunks up. John Nord explained it like the heavyset guys, when they're slammed around, they start to sweat in the ring. Sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes, there may be a grape hanging around the donut ring, if you know what I'm saying. And you don't want that to pop while you're in the ring, especially if you take an atomic drop the wrong way. Something bad could happen. So John Nord's working Dusty Rhodes. He's going to go over. Dusty's putting him over because Dusty was on his way out. So Rosemont Horizon, 20,000 people. The place is packed. And the finish of the match was for John to pick up Dusty and put him out with a pile driver. While he tries to get Dusty, Dusty's a little slippery. He's not wearing his usual ring gear. He's got a singlet on. So he says, "Okay, I'll grab him by the singlet." Rocks him back again, still sliding through. He doesn't want to hurt the guy. He doesn't want to be an Owen Hart Steve Austin scenario where you drop him on his neck and put him out that way, and he's seriously injured. Pulls it back again, he can't get it. And he looks over, Vern Gagne's at the stage door going, "What are you doing?" He said, "This son of a bitch is going up." He rocks him back, grabs the singlet across his chest underneath, and digs his fingers into the crack of Dusty Rhodes' ass and pulls his tights over and does the pile driver, and Dusty drops as something goes flying through the air into the ring.
Good God, Lily.
And the people in the crowd are going, "Oh, you guys, what are you guys gay? You got a tampon thrown at you. You like a woman, you got a tampon thrown at you. Look, it's over." And there's this thing laying in the ring. It looked like a sunrise. A little red, a little yellow, a little orange, maybe a little bit of brown, of course. He pinned Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty's words, as he's looking up at the lights and the ref counts to 3, "Oh, Big Johnny, my muffler fell out." It's on YouTube. Folks, go to YouTube and type in the search bar, John Nord muffler. And it populates. He's telling the story to a bunch of fans at a bar. And it's hilarious. His delivery, the impression of Dusty Rhodes.
I will have to look that up.
It's spot on, folks.
Well,
John Nord, Nord muffler.
Shout out
to you won't be disappointed.
I won't. Shout out though to St. Pete Rejuvenate.com and CultivateWellness.com for sponsoring Totem Pole Nation. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. Hopefully we'll be back next Sunday at our regular time.
Don't forget.
Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, brothers.
Love the support, fellas. We here at SCM. Think we're out of here. Out of time.
Peace.